And we're live. Mr. Ventura.
Welcome back, BlockchainNZ podcast.
We're here.
How's it going, everyone?
We're here. We made it. Token Affairs, the new name of the podcast. Great to see it back in its full flesh again.
Yeah.
Brian, been a bit of a break for you, mate, from the podcast. What have you been doing in the last little while since the last episode?
Yeah, it's been really good to relaunch the podcast. For those who don't know me, I was one of the co-founders of the podcast with BlockchainNZ, with Jeff Nicey, who since left New Zealand for the sunny shores of Vietnam. I'm a partner at Hamilton Locke, specializing in fintech and crypto law. And we're excited to relaunch this podcast. We've got a lot going on. We've got some exciting guests, no more exciting than the guests we have today.
Absolutely.
And our BlockchainNZ executive director Trevor Topfer, will be co-hosting going forward. And he's going to be going on about not just today, not just the guests we have, but also an exciting conference that he's organized in Queenstown.
Yeah, we'll get into the conference in due course, I'm sure. But it's great to be a part of the podcast. We had a great event last night on tokenized real estate. Biggest turnout we've had for an event. So there seems to be a lot of momentum happening around blockchain New Zealand. So it's a good time to be in blockchain. It's funny. I was saying last night, you're on a bull run when perfect strangers are coming up to you and asking you about crypto, and you're in a winter in a bear market when your family are talking to you about crypto. So look,
before we jump into the guest, mate, how about a quick intro?
Sure. So for some of you who haven't met me yet, I'm the new executive director of Blockchain New Zealand. Been in the role since about November last year and working very hard to try and advocate and lobby on behalf of the blockchain industry in New Zealand into our government and regulators to help us get some clarity and build a nice, clear playing field, and also grow the community and support the businesses that are building on and around blockchain. So it's been wonderful meeting some of the super innovative companies that are a part of our ecosystem, and seeing more and more members joining. Every week now we've got new members joining the community, new businesses launching. It's a pretty exciting time. I also have another hat. Some people watching this might know me as the CEO of Avatars Global. Avatars Global is an AI-based company. We build interactive AI solutions based around avatars. So that might be customer service tools, it might be interactive chatbots, or it might be entertainment-based products or brand mascots. All of that kind of stuff is what we do at Avatars Global, and that's been going very, very well. Also, it seems to be a lot of interest and engagement around the whole interactive AI chat model thing that seems to be blowing up right now. So yeah, pretty busy, Brian. Pretty busy, mate.
Yeah. You don't seem like you're busy, mate. Handling all those hats pretty comfortably.
I have great people around me. So, I'm a very big advocate of if I look like I'm doing a great job, it's because I've got a great team. It's nothing to do with me. I just smile and sell what's going on around me. So, it's absolutely people like yourself jumping into to support the podcast and support as the vice chair of Blockchain New Zealand. We've got some incredible people in and around the organisation. So, I'm very fortunate that that's the case. But look, I'm sure over the seasons, over the episodes that we're going to be rolling out over the coming period, people are going to get to know you and me pretty damn well. But what I'd love to do is jump into today's episode and invite our incredible first guest of the Blockchain New Zealand podcast 2.0, which
Token Affairs.
We're calling Token Affairs. So first official guest for Token Affairs is none other than the man himself, who's been in the hot seat at Swyftx for a little over a year, but in the company for about 3 years. Please go crazy out there. Slam your keyboard. Make signs at the cameras and the screens for Jason Titman. Welcome aboard, mate. Good to see you.
Welcome, Jason.
Thanks, Trevor, and thanks, Brian. Yeah, pleased to be on your first relaunched podcast here of Token Affairs. So looking forward to chatting to everybody and those of you who are listening in. Thank you, and looking forward to having a good chat.
Amazing, mate. Thank you so much for giving up some of your time. I know with everything that's going on in your world right now, shoehorning out, half an hour or 40 minutes of your time must be harder to pick than a broken nose at the moment.
Yeah, look, that's probably one way to put it. I must admit, I've always been pretty good at managing my time, but certainly with the huge uptick in the market, the relaunch the delivery of a 3 to 5 year strategic plan to the whole of the Swyftx team yesterday, and some of this M&A activity and others that we've got with the international growth. There's not a lot of time in my diary, guys. So when I say lucky, but I'm really privileged to be here, honestly. One thing that's important to me is engaging with the community that engages with us, and also helping that education piece. I mean, it's something that I'm really passionate about. Having sort of come from, a more of a TradFi background, I see the education of those people so much. But I just think with the whole of blockchain and the whole of digital currencies, how it's changing business, society. I like to participate in those conversations where I can.
Jason, you mentioned you came from TradFi. It's a good segue. Could you tell us more about your background in general and how you got to crypto?
Yeah, listen, I've been involved with the guys at Swyftx for about the last 2.5 to 3 years. And I've sort of come from more of an e-commerce background and more of a finance background. Also involved with listed companies as well. So I've had quite a many varied background, really starting my career actually as a computer and corporate auditor with KPMG. So that's where I first started. Things have come sort of full circle with some of that stuff. So for me, as I said, payments, e-com, digital is something. I mean, I rode that wave for the last 10 to 12 years in e-commerce as a platform. They're bringing retailers, both pure play retailers and online retailers online. So I've seen a lot of that. It's about being disruptive. A lot of my career and the things that I've done have been at the cutting edge of being disruptive. That's what I like about crypto. They talk about crypto being sort of 1 year in crypto is like a dog year. So seven years of human life. And I tell you what, I don't think they're too far wrong. That gets me out of bed every day. It also, the opportunity to create financial freedom for everybody is something that's really exciting and really passionate. It's something that I've always been about, the holistic person. I think you've got to, all of these things have got to come together to people to give them some sense of balance. And if you're not looking at your finances and you're not understanding that compound value of investing over time, I think you're doing yourself a disservice. So that's something that I'm genuinely passionate about. When I got introduced to Swyftx, it was in their early years, a very exciting industry, very exciting company. But one of the things that I liked about them was this idea of empowering people to create their own financial freedom, which I don't believe the traditional financial system really allows it. Unfortunately, it doesn't. It is skewed to those who already have money. It is skewed to so many of those with so much, of a deep understanding. And I think for me, crypto and digital is an aspirational asset. But I think unlike the ways of making money traditionally, I'm seeing a lot of young people that can actually make money. And it's not just young people, through this new emerging industry. So that's exciting. But it's the education piece that Swyftx put a lot of effort into as well. We still have a lot further to go, but really building content and material to help give some credible understanding. And I think, also by dialing into podcasts like this, people can start to really understand the space, because let's face it, it really is only a 15-year-old industry. Yeah,
I couldn't agree more. The education piece is a huge part of what my day-to-day is at Blockchain New Zealand. People are genuinely inquisitive, and I really think that I agree with you. The first time, certainly in my life, and I've been around the moon a few times now, but I think for the first time we are really at a kind of a juncture or a precipice or an inflection point where true financial sovereignty, true financial ownership, for all is available for the first time. And it's these incredible rails that blockchain brings. that allows us to have that kind of capability. There's no more gatekeepers holding back the access to be able to move value around, and I think that's a huge opportunity.
Well, I think we're getting there. I mean, if you look at just the Swift payments network, that global payments network, there's something like 12 steps that you need to go through and 6 or 7 intermediaries to make a payment.
Yeah.
Now,
all of them are flipping the ticket on the way through, by the way.
They're all flipping the ticket on the way
people.
through, which all means that they have a vested interest in keeping that system the same as it is. The simplest way to look at blockchain as technology is it's simply peer-to-peer. You are cutting out those 12 steps and you're down to 2 steps, peer-to-peer transfer, that whole interoperability, that whole trust and all of those sorts of things. It's for a fraction of the cost. And it's at a millisecond of the speed instead of waiting 3 to 4 days for these transfers. It just is mind-blowing. And that's one small element of what it offers. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of the public don't get to really understand that, because we've got the traditional players which are still kind of saying, oh, it's not a safe industry to be in, there's this and that. The reason they are dishing out on the industry is they are protecting their own profits. And that's the harsh reality of it. So, look, that is the fight that we're in. But this industry is absolutely going to profoundly change the way that society operates. It's going to profoundly change the way in which people invest and in which payments are made and remittances are made. And that's the exciting thing. I mean, I like to be part of that, because I think it's all going to be happening in a positive manner. We've got to be conscious of any of the risks that are there, and that they always do need to be addressed. But for me, the positives far outweigh it, and individual consumers and investors are the ones that are ultimately going to benefit.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I tell people when I try to explain blockchain, because you get the doubters and you get the hype layer that sits above it all, that sort of paints a not necessarily great picture. But at the end of the day, it's a better deal for the average person, and it's not a better deal for the stakeholders that have built this sort of legacy system, and as you say, are vehemently protecting it right now, because this technology, completely makes most of it redundant, if not all of it redundant. There's one or two things that we could pick apart and talk about in terms of validation and custody and those sorts of issues that we'll probably get into in the podcast. But for the most part, it just eliminates it all. It just puts it peer-to-peer at scale, securely on an immutable blockchain where you can see everything. That there's that level of transparency that you don't get in existing systems now. If I want to know about a transaction in my own world, I've got to go to my bank and I've got to find out, and they've got to bring it all back to me. Blockchain, one click, there it all is. So many advantages.
100%. And I think you probably may want to get into this later in the podcast, but when we talk about the regulatory side of things just for a minute, Swyftx I'm a big advocate, and there are many in the industry that are advocates that we should be moving down the regulatory path. I think one of the things the regulators need to be careful about is that we don't try and fit this new age industry that's a 24/7 industry, unlike the existing equities, et cetera, which are essentially 9 to 4 when those markets are open, and then you've got to wait.
5 days a week.
There's the arbitrage all around the world. But we've got to make sure that we don't entirely try to smother this industry as well and stuff it into the existing industry, because then you're going to lose a lot of that innovation and a lot of those benefits. But maybe we'll get onto that later.
Oh, I think it's a great segue. Let's talk about it now. I mean, it's the state of crypto globally. It's not really a uniquely New Zealand or Australian problem, right? This is something that I'm sure you do a lot more of it than I do. I know, Brian, you've spent the last year doing it. Everywhere you go, you hear these same concerns around regulation. And I made a joke yesterday. I was having a chat to Brian. I made a joke yesterday. So I've been in pharmaceuticals, I've been in media, I've been in Fortune 50 companies throughout my career, and I've never been in an industry where the industry is going, regulate us, we want to be policed, come on, it's nuts.
Yeah. Well, Trevor, that's the same reaction that I get from politicians around the world now. It is something. Crypto's very global in what it is. Swyftx is certainly reaching out globally and operating in more jurisdictions, and there's a number of others that we've got planned. The regulators everywhere are saying a similar thing. we're not used to an industry coming to us saying, please regulate us. So that's interesting. I think that shows the huge positivity of the industry. I think it shows actually an increasing maturity of the industry. And it has taken regulators a little bit back from that perspective. But you're right. They are grappling with it around the world. But let me say this. There has been a 180-degree shift in the attitude from regulators as a result of the Trump administration victory last November. They keep piling on with making America the crypto capital of the world. Those 3 bills that were passed last week are absolutely monumental. And I said that to the Swyftx team. I'm not sure with the people that you've got listening in here now, whether they really understand the significance of those 3 bills, because America has the majority of crypto transactions going through it in the world. America leads in so much of our economic activity. And others fall in line. So I do suspect that a number of jurisdictions are watching it very closely. Now, not everything that comes out of America is perfect or ideal, but I'm saying that the dial has shifted. That inflection point is absolutely upon us, and there's a lot more positivity from regulators everywhere and acceptance around the world about regulating the industry and regulating it well so that you're capturing and encouraging the innovation. But at the same time, you are getting consumer protection, which absolutely has to be there.
Yeah, I think that's the big one. What are you seeing, Brian, when you're out? I mean, you're deeply involved in this space. You're handling a lot of the negotiations that a lot of these companies are facing up against regulators and some of these walls. What's been your kind of takeaway at the moment?
Yeah, I agree with Jason. I think the US has kind of signaled that, this is an industry we're supporting. And if you see the US with the bills, you're seeing a gravitational pull back to the US. And, I started my career as a crypto lawyer in 2017. And since that time, I was been telling my clients, look, you kind of want to avoid the US or really try and mitigate your exposure to the US market because of the negative attitude the US had towards crypto. But really, since Trump, that attitude's changed, and the crypto industry around the world now has access to the world's biggest consumer market, and I think that's exciting. I'm keen to hear about Jason's thoughts about, Swyftx started as an Australian company, right? It's now into the New Zealand market. It kind of seems like Swyftx is ready to take over the world. Is that right?
Well, we have big aspirations, and I guess you can either build a company fast or you can build one to last. I'm very much about building companies to last, and that's been kind of my approach to it. So we're going fast, but at the same time we're doing it well. From a Swyftx perspective, we see the world, or we see crypto as a global industry. It's one industry that's almost global more than any other industry. So it's important to get economies of scale for our customers and economies of scale for our business. That's one aspect of it. But I think we're also seeing just the changing nature of society and people that want to operate around the world. So if you build your platform just for one particular country, it can become somewhat clunky when you've got to be going through the AML, KYC rules, etc. So we're very much, we act locally, but we're thinking globally. And from a Swyftx perspective, our growth is very much about growing in customer segments, growing in product, and growing in geographies. So it's those 3 areas. And the way in which we're doing that is absolutely the organic growth. So we're building out the core company and features, etc. We're doing some very strong global partnerships, channel partnerships with some big operators that will continue to get Swyftx into other markets, into other customers' bases. And then we're doing M&A. And that's certainly taken us into the New Zealand market with our acquisition of Easy Crypto, a great company that Janine and her team built. We've sort of been, I've known Janine for quite some time there, knowing the New Zealand market. And I guess it was just a natural segue in terms of the growth that they were feeling that they wanted to be part of a bigger group. And that's a journey that we're still going on in terms of it, because our New Zealand, their New Zealand customers, which are now our New Zealand customers, are most important, as are their team members. For me, it's very much about having a local presence. It's very much about operating in that market. So particularly excited about the expansion into New Zealand through Easy Crypto.
So, mate, tell us a little bit more about, how that came to be. What was the attraction for the New Zealand market in the first instance? Clearly, acquiring the largest Kiwi-owned exchange is a pretty bold move, and you've certainly made your presence felt pretty quickly, and I guess over the coming months that'll start to really play out in the public narrative. But I'd love to know a little bit more about what led to the decision, what was the appeal to the New Zealand market, and how did we get where we are today?
Well, I think there's always a friendly rivalry between Australia and New Zealand between our union teams particularly. But look, all of that aside, for me, a cultural alignment is where it needs to start with. I'd had the pleasure of meeting Janine and some of the team at a number of crypto events. So certainly I could see and feel that there was some cultural and values alignment between the two companies. That was number one. Number two, the mantra upon which I've sort of come to Swyftx is to grow the company and is to grow it into a global company. And a part of that is definitely looking very far abroad, and part of it is looking much closer to home. I think we've all acknowledged that the crypto industry in Australia and New Zealand, is behind in some respects some of the other markets, but it's ahead in different areas as well. So we really liked what Janine and the team had put together in terms of the offering to New Zealand. It's obviously a country where I'm, fairly familiar with as well. Love the people, love the way things are done over there. And we just started talking more. And I guess as we did, scale is something that's really important in this industry. And it's really important to customers if they want to see new product features, if they want to see more development, and as companies grow and become stronger, and offer a whole lot of other areas to do with their finances, their security. So scale is important, and I think Janine and the team, also understood that. And then we started advancing the conversation. So there's a very good opportunity the way in which we do this. Ultimately, Swyftx doesn't want to be a house of brands, and what I mean by that is ultimately we do just want the Swyftx brand out there and the Swyftx platform out there. Yeah. But at the same time, I'm not in any rush to do that. The most important thing, as I said, are the New Zealand customers, which are trading with Easy Crypto and the Easy Crypto staff. So we're taking our time to bring the two together. And there's lots of things that the Easy Crypto team are teaching our team and vice versa. So I think it's going to be a win-win for the team. I think it's going to be a win-win for the New Zealand customers. And certainly from a Swyftx perspective and a blockchain perspective, as I say, I'm coming from this from an education perspective and also an evolution of the ecosystem. And the ecosystem is not just about people investing in crypto. It's about businesses. How are they going to start engaging and using crypto? How are stable coins? And this is something that came along with our New Zealand acquisition, is the NZDD, which is a stable coin, New Zealand's only stable coin, which the Easy Crypto team have built, which is something very exciting for trade, international trade. And I think the opportunities as a starting point between Australia and New Zealand with that are particularly exciting. As I say, it came about from the values, it came about from the cultural alignment, then it came about from sort of a geographical perspective. New Zealand was an area that Swyftx was doing some work in, not a lot, and it just felt like the two came together quite well. So we're very excited about what we can create and help amplify what the team in New Zealand have already done and will continue to do with I guess, the additional strength and guidance coming from Swyftx.
Yeah. The New Zealand market has definitely been excited with the acquisition, and Swyftx has really really built its presence in the New Zealand market. Trevor and I have seen that through BlockchainNZ, and I think it's a great investment into the New Zealand ecosystem. Jason, you talked about evolution, inflection point, product. Now that gets me excited because the beauty about blockchain is you have programmable money, and you have all of these new tools that TradeFi doesn't have to create some exciting consumer products. Can you share some alpha about some of the products that Swyftx is working on?
Look, definitely, and I think you're right. It's the technology that sits behind the digital currency, that being blockchain, the ability for smart contracts. I mean, smart contracts that can execute at certain points in time, and what that means for international trade, but what it actually means for individual consumers as well. I mean, I think we're going to be at a point where with AI, and Trevor, I know you're interested in that area as well, when you start combining blockchain, digital currencies, smart contracts and AI, you've got a whole different way in which people can be making payments. In fact, negotiating payments as well. You could actually see that AI would be able to negotiate payments or purchases on your behalf. And then the smart contracts would actually be able to execute them through digital currencies. There's all sorts of exciting stuff that I see is possible and is on the way. Most immediately, I guess, what are we trying to do? People are used to, they don't necessarily like it, but people are used to the traditional financial system, which enables people to place their money somewhere. And from there, they can actually make payments. They can earn a reward on that money, and they can make remittances, and they can invest. So the idea, Swyftx is moving from just being a spot crypto exchange to enabling people to live their whole financial life within our ecosystem. So that you will see the coming of crypto-backed loans. You will see crypto-based credit cards, crypto-based remittances, and all of these sorts of things. So that is the ecosystem that we're building out. There's some of the features. We are also have launched in Australia our derivatives. Now, the one thing that we need to be careful in each of these markets is making sure that the regulatory side of things keeps up with it. So we are in a situation now where in some markets we'll be offering certain features. We won't be able to turn them on and offer them in certain markets until the regulation catches up or until we get the right licensing. So that's something that we need to manage. And I also touched on this concept of interest or earn revenue on your crypto. I want people to be able to hold their crypto with us and get a return on it, just like they can through the traditional financial system. Now, the technology's there, can be done. We've got it. Can't just turn it on until you get the regulatory and the licensing pieces right. So there's some very exciting product development which has been going on in the background. We've got a lot of features and a lot of products ready to turn on. We're just getting the licensing and regulators to catch up with it. But that gives you a little bit of an indication of where we're going, and that whole ability to do remittances globally around the world for these international diaspora populations as well. Rather than using the Western Unions and all of those traditional ones that take an incredible cut out of your money.
Yeah, 15%.
Now, there are some cheaper ones, but, once again, they tend to be siloed. What we've seen to date is the siloing of financial products and financial services. That's where blockchain can enable the breaking down of those silos. And it's certainly one of the visions and one of the values that we have at Swyftx, is to get that interoperability across everything, breaking the silos down. And that's something we're working very hard so that customers just, can do everything essentially with us in a very seamless manner. At the same time, though, we are building integrations and relationships with TradFi. I'm not one of these proponents that say that TradFi will just be done away with. It won't be wiped out. There's no way it will be wiped out. It will be enhanced. If you are getting on board with blockchain, getting on board with digital currencies and crypto, and using a platform such as Swyftx, you will be enhancing your experience with the traditional financial experience. That's what the TradFi players that want to play.
I was just about to say, I think there are some emerging now, right? We're starting to see TradFi companies go, well, okay, how do we work together? How do we take the best of what we've got, the best of what's coming through, and create better experiences, better products, better value propositions for our customers?
They're definitely reaching out to us. They are definitely reaching out to us. Some of them are frightened about what their peers think about it, and I think that's a shame, but that's the reality of what's going on out there. So I think from your listener base as well, it's important that we get a bit of demand push. It's important that as consumers and as investors, we're pushing our traditional financial institutions. We're pushing our pension funds and our, those sorts of companies to say to them that you want them to allow you access to digital assets. That helps as well.
Look at the BlackRock ETF, right? The Bitcoin ETF. It's the most successful ETF in history.
Correct. It is just sucked a whole pool of money in, hasn't it?
And it's what, months old. It just goes to show how wild the space is growing, and we are actually seeing that moment of institutional adoption, that moment of kind of the precursor to what we see as mainstream adoption that us degens that have been in the space for a while have been banging on about for years. We're really starting to see that come through now, which is very exciting.
And Trevor, you touch on, or you mention institutional adoption. At the moment, there is 1% of global capital invested in crypto, of institutional capital. That is just mind blowing. Crypto is a $3.6 trillion asset class at the moment. I was recently in Toronto at a conference with a lot of traditional financial players, and they were still scoffing at the industry, saying, hey, we know it's there, we know it's getting there, but we don't consider a real asset class until it gets to $20 trillion. And that's just one asset class. So if you start looking at the numbers, it is mind-blowing. The institutional money is starting to flow in. We are seeing it all the time. And I look at companies that might have, and we're talking some of the larger private companies here and some of the public companies that might have 20, 50, 100, 300, $500 million sitting on their balance sheet of cash. Now, the best blended sorts of rates you're going to be getting is 8, maybe 10%. And if you're staggering it over some time to get some of those higher rates, but that's what you're going to get. If you look at Bitcoin alone, some 1,200% increase in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Now, if I was a treasury manager or a CFO, and I only had 5% of my balance sheet in crypto, in Bitcoin, can you imagine the alpha, the lift on the portfolio?
Yes.
The small percentage there. So this is what treasury managers are starting to understand, and Bitcoin is as liquid as cash. So they are absolutely starting to invest in that. So we're seeing all different sorts of money flows that are starting to happen. And if you have a look at Bitcoin, 95% of the Bitcoin that's ever going to exist has already been issued. But less than 5% of people in the world own Bitcoin. So there is some very big mismatch there. And I'm not somebody who will go and give price predictions. That's not what I think my role is. And, I think it can be fraught with danger. But you just have to have a look at those facts that I touched on before. 1% of global institutional capital is invested at this point in time. And then just with one asset class alone, or one coin alone being Bitcoin, 95% that's ever going to be issued is issued, and only 5% of the world owns it. So, it's going to be an interesting race. And therein lies those questions that you made, or Brian, the observations around the ETFs and why they've been so popular. There is a cohort of people starting to understand those numbers that I've just gone through and gone, hang on, something's when I say a miss, is an arbitrage and a big opportunity over the next few years.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Look, I'd love to just dig back to, and I'm conscious of time, but I'd love to dig back into the regulatory landscape a little bit. Coming from Australia into New Zealand, you've obviously got kind of feet in both camps now. Are you seeing a lot of difference? Are you seeing areas where Australia might be a little ahead or behind, and New Zealand might be a little bit better? What's your overall take on the kind of legislative or regulatory landscape between the two jurisdictions?
Trevor, it's an interesting question. From me personally, and from a Swyftx perspective, I try to be pretty agnostic. I am genuinely here for the industry, and I'm genuinely here for the customers and the consumers, the investors. I say to regulators, without trying to be arrogant about it, I say to them, listen, you do whatever you want. I'll kind of follow what you're doing to a point, but I'm here to run build a long-term successful business. So my interests are always the consumer anyway, because I want to build a long-term successful business. I look, disappointingly, Australia is further behind than where it should be now. They've had plenty of time. There is no excuse. And it's got bipartisan support. What it is still a lack of education amongst a number of people, in both sides of Parliament, and a lack of urgency because they keep letting other things get in front of it, putting it bluntly. But having said that, the education piece from the current Australian Treasurer, Jim Chalmers, has really been elevated. Dr. Andrew Charlton from the Labor Party has been very valuable in terms of what he's done with education of the industry over the last 12 to 18 months, engaging with the Australian blockchain industry. So we're definitely getting there. New Zealand, in August, I'm trying to line up, and I think I should have some meetings with your finance minister and assistant treasurer to have a conversation just about where they see the industry going and where the opportunities are. For me, there's probably two things that I say to politicians generally about this industry and the opportunities. One is the consumer protection. Now, in Australia, and not dissimilar to New Zealand as I understand it, we've spent the last 30 or 40 years building up the financial planning industry, the regulated financial planning industry, and telling investors, go to a financial planner. Yet the government haven't regulated this industry, this asset class. So there's up to 80 to 90% in Australia and New Zealand from the studies I'm seeing of investors that are asking their financial planners for financial planning advice on digital assets. And those financial planners can't give it because it's not a regulated asset. So it's just, government says, and regulators, we're here to protect consumers. I'm going, well, if you are, you would have brought legislation in a lot earlier, wouldn't you? So I think they kind of like to say one thing and frankly not deliver. So, I am disappointed from a consumer perspective and a voter perspective. I think voters aren't being looked after. Yeah. The other side of it is that New Zealand's quite similar to Australia in terms of our reliance on natural resources for earning money. We've got ESG considerations. We've got all sorts of things at play there. But what about the productivity and the GDP uplift of the digital economy, and particularly blockchain and crypto? We know that New Zealand and Australia, for that matter, have a beautiful lifestyle. There is just so many things that people move to our countries for. And we've got, in the main, very good internet access. We can have the best brains working in the blockchain and the cryptocurrency digital asset space in the world, sitting in some of the best countries in the world, living a great, safe lifestyle. So if we get the legislation right and regulation right, that encourages that innovation, for me, it is another major economic pillar for both of our countries. So they're the sorts of messages that get me a bit frustrated with politicians when they don't put enough priority onto it. So I am continuing to advocate in Australia, and I think with the new government that's been in for the last 6 months, there is a commitment from them and things are moving here. I'm hearing mixed stories in New Zealand, and I really am intending to immerse myself there more to help have the dialogue, to help the discussion along. And at the end of the day, they are our elected officials and they need to make the decision. But I think so long as they're fully informed, and that is a problem in this industry. There's people of my era as well kind of trying to get around this new asset class. So it's important to get that education piece out there.
Jason, if it helps, I've been in the crypto industry since 2017 in New Zealand, and I've seen it grow from pretty much nothing. And now we've got hundreds of good high-paying jobs in the digital assets industry, which, these are tax-paying jobs. And if it helps, it'll be good to point that out to the politicians. We can really grow this industry and create 1,000 high-paying jobs.
I think a great point you make there, Brian.
I mean, who wouldn't want to set up their exchange or their custodial business, or even, some of the infrastructure players? I'm talking to a member of the community that's building on blockchain to do, agritech. They're validating authenticity across the supply chain using blockchain technology and these other use cases that we haven't even scratched the surface of in this conversation. So I think, we talk about high paying, jobs and shifting GDP. I think, that opportunity exists right now. There's an opportunity for government in New Zealand to move quickly and open up revenue streams for the country that are significant, and that will only lead to much, much, much bigger growth across other sectors. So I think it's we kind of get wrapped up in this whole blockchain, that's that Bitcoin stuff. But there's so much more when you start to scratch beneath the surface that's coming down the pipeline, that's transforming, and as you put it, Jason, disrupting industries and creating efficiencies that couldn't exist beforehand. And you're right. Unfortunately, I know it's happening in Australia because I've been on the ground over there. But it's definitely happening here. We're getting this brain drain situation, right, where a lot of the smartest people who are already in this space, who are interested in it, can't get ahead here. There is no opportunity here. There are no major corporations coming here and providing that infrastructure for those smart people to work, and so they end up overseas, and we lose some of the best people we've got in the industry.
There's a big brain drain to places like Bali. There's a big brain drain to places in the Middle East, Abu Dhabi,
UAE, Dubai.
That's right.
You can't. I mean, we've got fantastic countries and better countries than those countries, but some of those have got great lifestyles as well. And if they're going to be more encouraging, then that's where people are going to move. And there is a brain drain. I think we've still got too much of a archaic political thinking that people don't want to move. The younger generations now, and even quite the middle-aged generations, it's so much easier to move countries, and people will move.
And I wonder what percentage of the workforce is now work from home, like post-COVID and all the rest of it. You don't need to be bound to an office anymore. That's just not a world we live in. I mean, there's some to do, but
working from home and then working for overseas countries from home. Exactly. The numbers are staggering, and that's, if we don't get it right in New Zealand and we don't get it right in Australia, you're just getting massive brain drain, and you won't realise it for another generation almost, and then it's too late.
Couldn't agree more. Look, very conscious of time. I know we're running over, and I really want to get into kind of what brought us all together in the first place, Jason, which was the conference that Blockchain New Zealand are putting together later, or in about 3 weeks' time. Actually, geez, that clock's ticking away pretty quickly. So we're talking about Crypto Winter down in Queenstown, August 13, 14. Easy Crypto, powered by Swyftx, is the name partner. So first of all, a great big thanks for your incredible show of support, helping us get something like this off the ground. There's a groundswell of interest and activity around the conference, so it really shows that perhaps New Zealand is also at that inflection point. There's enough interest in the industry here for us to put together a major conference and get it off the ground. So I'd love to talk a little bit about what you're excited for Crypto Winter. You've sort of talked about being able to engage with some of the regulatory bodies here, which will all be in attendance. But tell us a little bit more about what you're looking forward to in Queenstown.
I'm looking forward to getting more immersed into the New Zealand blockchain industry. I think I'd say I've been scratching the surface of it for a while. I've got some good contacts. I've been building some networks over there, but I'm really looking forward to it. I think, Trevor, what you and the team at Blockchain New Zealand are doing is by bringing this concentrated group together, it's going to be kind of a powerhouse think tank group. I mean, I am looking forward to doing the opening keynote. Definitely looking forward to that. But I'm looking forward to listening to a number of other presenters as well to get their perspectives. I'm looking forward to the side events and some of the side conversations that are also going to happen. And I think, there's not only value in the speakers and the formality of it, but there's value in that broader network of bringing them all together. So that's why Easy Crypto and Swyftx were so excited, and we were happy to step up and support you along with others that are supporting you, because I just think it's great for the New Zealand blockchain industry.
It's definitely been a shot in the arm. I'm as I said, I'm getting members seeking us out. You know, I know Brian's getting a lot of conversations. Jeremy, our chairman, getting a lot of conversations about not only the event but just the space in general. Feels like there's a little bit of electricity, and I definitely think the acquisition of Easy Crypto was a big catalyst moment for that here as well. So, you know, Swyftx are playing a huge role in this current kind of upward trend of interest, enthusiasm, and excitement around the industry here.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'm currently booked for about 4 to 5 days, and speaking with my team, it feels like I could be over there for 6 or 7 with the number of requests I'm getting for meetings and catch-ups, which is a good thing. But I will be back as well, so not sure how much I can extend this particular trip, but absolutely look forward to you know, continuing that engagement, because I think what is happening, you're right. I'm feeling the momentum building in New Zealand. I'm feeling the energy. There is an inflection point. We've got to jump on now and really push it.
Yeah, and it seems you're not alone. You mentioned that others. I'm sure that the fact that you guys stepped up so quickly as well. You know, we just started talking about the event, and you were on board, which was remarkable. And we've had some of the biggest players in the region also participating in the event. So it looks like there's a lot of international interest in the New Zealand market. You know, I talk a little bit about some of the numbers here.
Yeah.
That there's 1 million Kiwis that own crypto, and there's very few services for them to participate in. Most of those services are held by offshore companies, so it's a great opportunity for people to set up and support those 1 million Kiwis that own crypto and all of the other companies that are building in and around the space. So
yeah. I mean, listen, I think we've sort of as I say, stepped up. We've been pretty bold. We've been pretty open about our intentions, and I think you're right. From what I'm hearing and seeing as well, lots of others are starting to kind of go, oh, maybe this is a market that we want to participate in. So look, I think that's a good thing for the New Zealand crypto investors. I think it's a good thing for New Zealand blockchain.
I mean, Trevor and I are we're in the front seat of the New Zealand crypto industry, and a lot of companies have kind of followed Swyftx lead in supporting the industry. And so, really appreciate your support, really creating that groundswell for us.
Yeah.
No, listen, you're welcome. And as I say, it's we're all in this together. It's an exciting journey, and I think over the next five years, it's going to be, in a good way, a radically different industry to what we've even got now.
I think even in 12 months, it's going to be significantly different to what we've got now. I talk to a lot of the people and say, look, just watch the next 12 months. Things are going to happen in this space here. Jason, something's going on when you get in this. In 1 week, on one day, I had both the FMA and the DIA email me. And I mean, here's a guy that's been knocking on those doors for months. And then on the same day, they email me out of the blue. And then the following week, I had EY and PwC email me on the same day. And so, those are signals for me that, something's going on here. People are taking notice. There's a lot of interest in what we're building here. And look, I'm looking forward to showcasing a little bit of what is uniquely Kiwi about this space, and also helping build bridges and create opportunities for deal flow, create opportunities for internationals coming in to participate, and for the Kiwi companies that are grinding down here in the corner of the world to be able to access and open up bigger and broader markets. So you're a huge part of that, mate. So thank you.
Yeah, listen, no, that's great, Trevor. I think you're doing a great job. I think crypto winter is going to really put New Zealand blockchain on the map. So excited to be associated with it.
Yep, awesome. And can't wait. So if you're watching and it isn't the 14th or 13th of August yet, tickets are still available. Get yourselves down to Queenstown. Come and join us. Come and meet Jason. Get to hear what's going on across the region. Engage with all of the industry players. It'll be a wonderful time for us all to come together as an industry and really, as you say, Jason, put a flag on the map and say we're here and we're here to stay. So very exciting.
Great.
Any final thoughts? As we pull this thing to a close, any final thoughts, comments?
Look, I think, I'm sure you've got quite a broad listener base, and I think some of them are probably not invested yet. So if you're not, I would certainly say start doing some research. There's some really good, material out there that you can start doing it. Never too early to learn. My experience in life has always been, if I want to understand an asset class, I invest in it. Don't throw all my money in it, but certainly invest in it. So I would say that. I would say from a career perspective, huge opportunities in the adjacencies. You don't just have to work for a pure play crypto player like Swyftx as an exchange. I mean, we're certainly, employing a lot more people. So we're very keen to hear from people across a whole lot of different disciplines. But I think adjacencies, the financial services, the legal profession, the marketing, et cetera, there are so many opportunities. And I would say to anybody at that stage in their career, early to mid stages, don't turn your back on this industry. Embrace this industry and you're setting yourself up for a great career. That's the second thing I would say. And I think the third thing I would encourage you to say, and I say this as an ASX director and director of several different companies, and I've done a fair bit in that space. I think our companies in Australia and in New Zealand are lacking people, even in technology. So let's not go so far as to say blockchain and crypto currency. It's a passion of mine from a corporate governance and a corporate strategy perspective. So if I say to your listeners on the other end of the spectrum, be educating yourselves, but also if you own a company, if you are a director on a company or an investor in a company, I'd be wanting to make sure that I've got at least a director there that starts to understand blockchain. Because if you don't, I'm not sure what the value of your company is going to be in 5 years' time. It's absolutely not going to be maximized or optimized as if you had a director there that was starting to push those aspects, because I'm still seeing too many companies that are naive and putting their head in the sand in terms of blockchain, and it is going to really cramp their ability to grow shareholder value in the future. So that's probably the third point that I would just leave listeners with, because I'm sure you've got a diverse group of listeners out there.
Amazing. Yeah, great advice, mate. There seems to be the world chases shining objects, and AI is the shiny object right now. But blockchain is fundamentally rebuilding the internet, and that's a big deal that everybody needs to be paying attention to. So sometimes
it's a structural shift. Look, I mean, there are lots of shiny things that we all get caught up chasing, but blockchain is a structural change, and it's very real, and it's here to stay. Yep,
100%. Brian, any closing thoughts from you, mate?
Yeah, I think Jason made some really good points throughout the episode. I think we're the industry now, and Swyftx is one of the leaders of it. The crypto industry is meeting TradeFi, and for a while they've been awkward dance partners, but now we seem to be dancing to the same tune a bit more. I expect more of that to happen in the coming years. I think the groundswell is happening. I think Jason makes a good point about at the governance level, it's worth really thinking about what are the disruptors to our business. And I'm sure every board is worried about becoming the next Kodak. And so Jason makes a really good point about thinking about disruptive technologies like blockchain, AI, and how that could impact your business.
100%. And I won't take up any more time other than to say, if you like what you're hearing and you want to hear more of it, click on the like button or do the share or subscribe thing as you might see fit.
Subscribe.
And Jason, again, appreciate your time, mate. Thanks for being on the very first official episode of Token Affairs, the new Blockchain New Zealand podcast. And I look forward to seeing you down in Queenstown in a few weeks' time, mate. Brian, see you on the next episode, mate.
Thanks, Trevor and Brian, and thank you to listeners, and look forward to seeing you in a few weeks.